Page 43. Continued. Question 10. Consider, quote, A Midsummer Night's Dream, unquote, as a comedy. Answer. In A Midsummer Night's Dream there are satires, music and lyricism, but it also illustrates Shakespeare's idea of comedy. Romance and comedy are intermingled in the play as in his middle comedies. Theseus is a romantic lover. He has wooed and page 44. 1. Hippolyta. Titania had her affair with Theseus, whom she led through the glittering night from Perigona, and also made him break his faith with fair Aegles, Aegles, with Ariadne and Antiopa. Lysander, Demetrius, Helena and Hermia are human lovers. Their love is thrilling. Hermia revolts against the authority of her father and flies with her lover, Lysander, even at the risk of punishment by the Duke. Love cannot be prevented. It will find a way out as happens ultimately with Hermia and Lysander. Pyramus-Thisbe play burlesques this romantic love. Demetrius and Helena also follow Lysander and Hermia to the forest. But disorder and confusion ensue them. Confusion is caused among the lovers by the effects of the misapplied love juice. The course of true love never runs smooth. Again, the essence of romance is to be found in the fairy element of the play. The fairy king with his court, the queen with her attendants, their quarrel over a handsome boy, the little western flower causing all sorts of complications, and the pranks of mischievous Puck. All these constitute the romantic repast. Most of the action happens at night under moonlight when, quote, Phoebe, Phoebe, doeth behold, her silver visage in the watery glass, decking with liquid pearl the bladed grass, unquote, stop. To the ethereal beauty of moonlight is added the romantic beauty of woodland scenery. The wood near Athens, where the lovers play their parts and which is a haunt of the fairies, is a beauty spot. Quote, Line 1. Where the wild thyme blows. Line 2. Where ox lips and the nodding violet grows. Line 3. Quite over canopied with luscious woodbine. Line 4. With sweet mask roses and with eglantine, stop, unquote. Para, quote, The fields sparkle with the dewdrops liquid pearl, semicolon. The woods are lighted in the fiery glowworm's eyes, stop, unquote. This is the land of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It is a land of romance and enchantment where the air is filled with the fairy songs. The magic of moonlight and the beauty of woodland scenery provide the fitting backgrounds to the romantic comedy of love which forms the substance of the play, para. But with this romantic elements is combined the comedy, which is another element of Shakespearean comedy. A Midsummer Night's Dream is Shakespeare's earliest experiment in the domain of comedy. The interaction between the real and the unreal goes on through all the stages of comedy. The amorous entanglement between the two pairs of human lovers becomes so acute as to be almost tragical. But the troubles of lovers have almost no meaning for Puck, who exclaims, colon, Lord, what fools these mortals be, unquote. Roman 3I, small 2I, 115. Just as Prospero, with his supernatural power, frustrates all the conspiracies of his enemies with the help of Ariel, so Puck unravels the entanglements by the application of juice. So what seems to be tragical becomes comic from the vantage point of Puck. Puck is a merrymaking, mischievous wanderer of the night, and his aim is not to profit himself or anyone else, but to, quote, jest to Oberon and make him smile, unquote. Roman big 2I, small I, 44. He has the characteristics of both the intriguing slave of Latin comedy and the Elizabethan clown, para. Theseus expresses the underlying idea of this comedy most picturesquely in the passage about the lover, the lunatic, and the poet. The protagonists live in a world of unreal visions which, quote, cool reason, unquote, cannot comprehend. The comic significance of his eloquent outburst on poetry is emphasized as Theseus descends from the sublime to the commonplace, exclaiming, quote, page 45, how easy is a bush supposed a bear, quote, how easy is a bush supposed a bear, unquote, stop. It is when the bush is made to feel that bush is at the same time a bush and a bear that the comic scene is roused, para. Shakespeare's genius for comedy finds its most consummate not so much through what happens to the fairies or the passionate outbursts of the lovers as through the Athenian mechanics. Bottom is the most remarkable character among this crew of patches, rude mechanicals. With his self-assurance and conceit, he impresses the audience as a humorous character who takes upon himself the management of the dramatic group and is ready to play every part. When he is lighted to elf land, where he is met love by a fairy queen and waited upon by fairy attendants, he bears himself with unshaken self-confidence. His vanity is ridiculous. He is a realist and without romantic imagination. When Bottom awakes from his dream imagination, he is confused. Though he keeps his wits about himself, but his romantic imagination is not congenial to his nature. As a dramatic producer, he insists on mechanical reproduction that leaves nothing but reconstructive imagination. The play within the play is a parody of romantic love and theatrical heroics of earlier age. It is a source of fun and humor. A celebrated tale of youthful romantic love is turned into an anti-romantic burlesque. Question 11, quote, A Midsummer Night's Dream, unquote, approaches between a masque, M-A-S-Q-U-E, and a Midsummer Night's Dream. Do you agree? Give reason for your answer. Answer. Masks were first introduced from Italy into England in the year 1512-13. They were costly pageants devised for some special occasion. The Italian mask grew out of the carnival, and the performance of masks in England was first associated with such festivals as Christmas Day, Twelfth Day, and May Day. The mask was characterized by singing and dancing, and its essence was pomp and glory. Characters are generally mythological, and it was performed at court to celebrate some wedding festivals. It was in the reign of James I mask attained highest glory in the hands of Ben Jonson. Shakespeare introduced a mask in The Tempest to celebrate the marriage of Ferdinand and Miranda. Ben Jonson introduced anti-masks, which were usually parodies, para. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, the mask, quote, imperceptibly glides into comedy, unquote. There are masks-like elements in the play, songs and dances, fairy characters, spectacular entertainment, predominance of classical and mythical names, that is, Amazons, Eagle, Antiopa, Apollo, Ariadne, Aurora, Cadmus, Diana, Daphne, etc. Pyramus and Thisbe play, which is a parody of the main theme of the play, can be called an anti-masque. It was probably acted in celebration of a marriage festival, para. But A Midsummer Night's Dream cannot be called a masque proper. It shows none of the deep classical learning which is associated with the regular masque as produced by Ben Jonson. Shakespeare has borrowed from the classical fables just a few names and used them with a Shakespearean freedom. The interlude is genuinely English. Its clowns are common English tradesmen, remarkable for their lack of imagination and realistic satiric way of staging a drama, para. As a matter of fact, A Midsummer Night's Dream is a well-designed drama with human character. There is a dream atmosphere throughout the play. All the characters and incidents breathe the peculiar atmosphere, earthly but enchanted. The fairies are preternaturally small. They have supernatural powers, but they have human propensities, page 46, and human failings. They are not human mortals, but they have emotions of human beings. They know love and jealousy and are not above committing grievous blunders. Bottom is of the earth, earthy, but even his earthiness becomes unearthly by sheer excess. In the Greek legends from which Theseus and Hippolyta are taken, the former is a demigod and the latter an Amazon. But in Shakespeare's play, they are normal human beings who have nevertheless a romantic past connecting them with the Oberon and Titania. Shakespeare does not analyze the human lovers, Lysander, Hermia, Demetrius, and Helena, in the manner he will do in his middle comedies. But here he adopts a method appropriate to the requirements of a play which progresses to be the representation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Puck's juice may be taken as a symbol of uncertainty and perversity of human love. All the episodes have thus human significance, but over them all reigns the spirit of a fantasy and dream. All the characters, even the fairies, are people of substance, but all seem to be part of a phantasmagoria. Theseus's comment on the acting of Bottom and his fellows may be accepted as an interpretation of the whole play. Quote, "The best in this kind are but shadows, and the worst are no worse if imagination armed quote, "The best in this kind are but shadows, and the worst are no worse, if imagination amend them, bracket, Roman V, I, 205-6, bracket close, stop. If imagination is active with its powers of amendation, even shadows will be endowed with life, but fundamentally they will remain shadows, and this interplay between shadow and reality is the substance of comedy." Question 12. Discuss the roles of imagination and reason as suggested in the play, quote, "A Midsummer Night's Dream," unquote. Answer. Some critics have felt that the play affirms the importance of the world of dreams or fantasy and shows that reason impoverishes the imagination. Others have recognized the extent to which it also expresses the absurdities of the imagination and gives approval to the voice of reason. However, it is right to assert that the play achieves a splendid balance between the two. If the imagination makes possible visions and experiences otherwise inaccessible and liberates natural energies from the restraints of reason, those visions and experiences are only given form and meaning through the reason. Such view fits in well with the thinking of Shakespeare's age about the relation of imagination to reason as expressed, for instance, in Pierre de Primandis. The second part of the French Academic, 1594, pp. 146-7. Now after the imagination hath received the images of the senses, singly and particularly as they are offered into it, then doeth it as it were prepare and digest them, either by joining them together or by separating them according to their natures required, ... This office of joining or separating belongs to reason, ... Para. Marjorie Garber, in his Dream in Shakespeare, 1974, says, if illusion and the imagination are not without their dangers, they are nonetheless, in the terms of the play, preferred to the radical, cool reason, page 84, R.W. Dent, in his Imagination in A Midsummer Night's Dream, 1964, argues that the play implies a contrary view of imagination to that of Theseus. The play evidently reflects something of an important debate in the Renaissance. The imagination was widely held in dispute and linked with the senses rather than the reason. It was held to be the source of distorted visions and a contributing factor in diseases such as melancholy. But it was also defended with vigor, especially by the poets, as able to give form to higher truths than the literal, and under the guidance of reason, to create images that could stir the reader to virtuous courses, ... Page 47. The play begins from the tyranny of reason as embodied in the law that would sentence Hermia to death or perpetual chastity for disobeying her father. The lovers flee from Athens, the city as symbol of civilization, to the woods outside, symbolic of the wilderness, only to find that they have escaped one form of tyranny to encounter another in themselves. Love looks not with eyes, but with the mind, and the characters see a setting that reflects their state. In the wood there are love troubles created by the external agency, Park's love juice. These create discord. Another discord is shown in the quarrel between Oberon Titania, which has its real effect in the transformation of the seasons and confusions in nature. The passions generated by these quarrels are all part of the felt experience of the play for an audience. Titania accuses Oberon of stealing away from fairyland in pursuit of amorous adventures, but both seen at home in the landscape of delicate English beauty created by Oberon's memorable lines. Line 1, I know a bank where the wild thymes blows. Line 2, where oxlips and the nodding violet grows. 2.1.252-3. Para. The magic power of the love juice mirror the compulsive nature in real life of imagination. The follies illustrate the phenomena of irrationality as Helena generalizes that lover's mind has not of any judgment taste, and Theseus' comparison of lovers and lunatics. Love in the dream is censured for its unreason, and reason prescribed as the remedy. This interpretation is not borne out by the play. The final pairings accord with the choice the girls have faithfully adhered to, but the choice and fidelity are not dictated by reason. Hermia knows not by what power she is made bold to plead her cause before the Duke, any more than Demetrius knows by what power but by some power it is, his love is, home returned, to Helena. In each it is a power other than reasons. In Demetrius we know it is the power of love juice. In Hermia, it is the mysterious power of true love, which in her needs no prompting. When the young men return to their right lovers, that means for Lysander, no less than for Demetrius, a recovery of the emotion which possessed him, but not a return to reason as such. Among the four, none of the love relationship is any longer at odds with reason. They fulfill Bottom's wise wish, which was not that love be subjected to reason, but that the two be made friends. The inescapable fact about love and reason in the dream is that when the love conflict is first presented for judgment, reason has its chance to solve it. If unaided reason cannot, until the imagination of Demetrius has been reoriented for love, waits upon the prompting of imagination, does the love conflict become amenable to reason. It is for the power beyond reason which works that change that the compulsive magic of love Jews stands para. Love is irrational according to Theseus because they are at the mercy of imagination. The wider questions of illusion, appearance, the actual and the real combine to form the other major theme of the play. Imagination is liable to impose upon the object an identity and a value answering to its desire. Imagination-ridden, the lover sees, quote, Helen's beauty in a brow of Egypt. Stop. In this accusation, Theseus picks up Helena's love against love which is able to transpose to form and dignity things in themselves base and worthless. Stop. Many of the errors of imagination are mistakes of appearance for reality. In the dream, appearance and reality are presented on a series of different planes, colon. At the climax of the entanglement in the lovers' quarrel scene, the young man's rivalry in courtship and Hermia's sufferings are supposed by Helena to be an appearance. Page 48. Hermia's suffering is, however, real enough, occasioned by a desertion. As a matter of fact, the protagonists live in a world of unreal visions which, quote, cool reason, unquote, cannot comprehend. They are of imagination, all compact. Para. Drama itself creates an illusion. Queens and his actors quite misconceive the relationship between dramatic illusion, realism, and imagination of the audience. With their swords and lion, they are afraid of producing an effect which will be mistaken for reality, and so they measure to destroy the dramatic illusion. They bring an actor to impersonate the moon, when they might have gone in for realism with a comparatively realistic property wall. The wall too must be personified. They do not credit the audience with the power either to imagine or to discriminate between imaginary and the real. Theseus's comment on the acting of Bottom and his fellows may be accepted as an interpretation of the whole play. Stop. Quote, the best in this kind are but shadows, and the worst are no worse, if imagination amend them, stop, unquote. Roman v.I.205-6. Hippolytus' reply, it must be your imagination then, and not theirs, applies in its entirely only to the ridiculous play before her, where the audience has been left to do such imagining as may be possible. Para. Theseus's general attack on imaginative folly is nevertheless a positive contribution on one side of the debate between imagination and reason. Shakespeare is interrelating his planes of appearance and reality, the imagined and the actual illusion and truth, Athens in the real world to which one returns from the fairy other world to the wood, distinguished as another plane of actuality. Yet after Theseus has attempted to relegate the fairies to the realm of fantasy, they conclude the play with an action of highest importance performed in his own palace, a palace which undoubtedly belongs to the Athenian plane of actuality. 13. Comment on the imagery and poetry of the play, quote, A Midsummer Night's Dream, unquote. Answer. Both in form and feeling, A Midsummer Night's Dream is the most lyrical of all Shakespeare's plays. The reflections upon imagination and dreaming, the evocation of fairyland, of the moonlit wood, and of the moon as presiding divinity are often lyrical in feeling, as are the recollections of Hermia's and Helena's girlhood, friendship, the early morning hunting scene, and at times the words of romantic love. Love whose mouth is ever May, Roman IV, capital I, 13123. Romantic love glows and flames with lyrical passion in Love's Labour Lost, Romeo and Juliet. Hermia speaks of, quote, the wood, where often you and I / upon faint promise beds were wont to lie. Stop. No unquote mark. 1.I.216-17. In the dream, the poet's natural magic of poetry is evident in Oberon's memorable lines, quote, I known bank where the wild thyme blows / where oxlips and the nodding violet grows, unquote. Titania's vision of landscape is much more agricultural as she lists the transformations and, quote, progeny of evils, unquote, 2.1.115, brought about by her quarrel with Oberon. The ploughman's labor is wasted and the ship fold stands empty. The setting seen by the, quote, hempen Homispus, unquote, who gather to rehearse their play is a, quote, green plot, unquote, with hawthorn bushes, 3.1.3. Bottom sings of English birds, the blackbird, wren, finch, sparrow, lark, and cuckoo, 3.1.103-9. The fairies he meets have associations appropriate to his imagination. Peas blossom, cobweb, moth, mustard seed, stop. The pleasantly dignified verse of the opening establishes Athens as the civilized court of Theseus, who conquered Hippolyta by force and is about to marry her in a celebration of peace and harmony. But it also displays the tyranny of reason and the law in sentencing Hermia. The various images different characters see in the woods establish the setting as likewise beneficent or hostile, figuring their state of mind, page 49. Liberated from the tyranny of the law, the lovers find, quote, a desert palace, unquote, 2.1.220, which in its wilderness reflects the tyranny of the passions of anger and hatred unleashed by their quarrels. The woods also harbor Titania's bower, an image of sweetness and beauty, and embody the liberated imagination in a range of kindlier aspects, para. The innocent images of her bower, flowers, honeybees, butterflies, fruits of all kinds, center of the flowery bed, 4.1.1, in which Titania winds bottom, or rather an ass in her arms, beauty throwing itself at a best when she wakes from the hateful fantasies. 2.1.261, it is to, quote, loathe, unquote, what she sees, 4.1.77. Moonlight, which is the pervading image, is a symbol of, quote, soft and benign exhilaration, unquote, The setting is the woodland, which is associated with pastoral tradition. The fairy king and queen with their attendants dancing and playing upon banks of flowers in silvery moonlight open before us wonderful vistas of romantic setting. The woodlands are carpeted with thick primrose beds, and its fields are aglow with the dewdrop's liquid pearl. Woodland setting is adorned with lovely pastoral images and is the appropriate haunt for the fairies. 14. Comment on the setting and the leading imagery of moonlight in the moon in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Answer. Allusion and imagery are the dramatist's resources for providing vistas or panoramas of the pastoral setting of the play. The lists are simple and concrete. Figs and true berries, honey and butterflies, bees and glowworms which figure in Titania commands to the attendants upon bottom. The vignettes, vignettes, are vivid glimpses of single figures and activities. Lysander quoting, "The old dame made to spill the ale in her withered dewlap. The sick man who hears the owls screech. The fairy king and queen with their attendants dancing and playing upon banks of flowers in silvery moonlight open before us wonderful vistas of romance and beauty. And there are Puck and Peace Blossom, Cobweb and Mustard Seed. Pygmies who hunt the worms in a rosebud, tease bats and chase spiders and lord it over nightingale, twilight, moonlight, dew, and spring. Perfumes are the elements of these tender spirits like the fairies. They assist nature in embroidering her carpet with green leaves, many-colored flowers, and dazzling insects. The setting is that of a fairy carnival of pastoral beauty, mirth, and melody steeped in a midsummer atmosphere. Para. The primary task of the appeals to the mind's eye and ear is to create the setting of the main action. The wood, both as woodland and as the haunt of the fairies. We hear of localities in it, Cologne Court, faint primrose beds, known to Helena and Hermia, and the Duke's Oak, unquote, A fairy appears and she speaks of cowslips as the pensioners of the fairy queen. It is the duty of the first fairy to hang dewdrop pearls in the cowslip's ears and to dew orbs upon the green where the fairy rounds are danced. Others kill cankers, cankers, in the mask rosebuds. For fans, pluck the wings from painted butterflies. The elves, terrified by their ruler's angry quarrel, take shelter in a corn cup. The wood is more realistic for its briars and dank, dirty ground, not ignored amidst its beauty. There are two especially vivid and realistic glimpses of country activities, the recreations obliterated by the atrocious weather. Quote, line 1. The 9 men's morris is filled up with mud. Line 2. And the quaint mazes in the wanton queen. Line 3. For lack of tread are undistinguishable. Stop, unquote.